Alright, so for today's video, we're going to be talking about cards to counter Voiceless Voice. We're going to talk about all the interactions, where you should hand chat them, how to beat them, because I really want you to be as prepared as possible for Phantom Nightmare format. If you enjoyed this video, and if you like me doing these types of how to beat, how to counter videos, let me know which ones you would like to see next in the comments down below. And also make sure to enter into my SP Little Night giveaway that's still going on, and it's ending on the 22nd of February. So in case you haven't entered yet, make sure you do. So yes, like the video if you enjoy it, and let's just hop right into it. The first card we have to talk about is going to be Ash. If you decide to run Ash moving forward in your main deck, or even if you sided, you probably should use it on either Diviner of a Herald effect or Saphira. Preferably Saphira, because Diviner can be interacted with via targeting negation, but Saphira is really, really nice because it's actually getting you to a lot. It's like the best point of ashing this deck. Or you can decide to ash Nadir Servant. However, there are some builds that don't run it because it's just you know, some people say it's not as great, and from what I've seen, usually builds are going to go for Prosperity. It just seems like the better version because you want to dig through your resources, you want to go into your deck and just like really find your plays. So I would ash Servant if they play it, but you can also ash pre-prep. I actually don't think this is a bad call because it's going to get all of their plays going, and by then, if you don't ash pre-prep, they have enough resources to where your ash might not do enough. And pre-prep is like literally getting them to 2 cards. Ashing Barrier is also not terrible, actually. I know it seems a little weird, like because usually they will go low and then place Barrier and then search with it. But I don't know, I don't think that's actually bad because, again, you want to cut them off from resources. Their boards are not extreme. It's not like they're putting up 6 negates or something. It's very toned down. It's really just a control deck that does not put up a lot of things, but has enough to where you're going to have to spend or waste a ton of your resources to actually deal with their deck because it's going to be unable to be targeted. Like their light monsters, their boss monster is like really big, actually. It's like 4100 attack, if I'm not mistaken. It's a negate. Low keeps coming back. So it's like they don't put up a board that seems threatening, but you do want to make sure you don't have a lot to deal with because you're going to waste all of your resources doing so, if that makes sense. So yes, we talked about targeting negation, and in my opinion, you have to Veiler or Imperm low as soon as possible. If they put it onto the field, just deal with it. Like, one of the most important parts of that strategy is presence of law on the field, and just overall its effect. Obviously, it's able to place and it's able to be used as an entire tribute, and that's really, really important because it's not like a condition or something, but it's an unclassified effect, meaning if you negate it, it cannot be used as the entire tribute for a ritual summon. So yes, you wanna, like, if they expose law, just negate it as soon as possible because they're going to struggle a bit to actually fulfill the condition of ritual summoning, or to fulfill the requirements, I should say. Another target to negate would be Diviner of the Herald. Usually they're gonna like do probably the entire combo with Diviner if they don't get interrupted. You know, they can go Diviner, send Trias Hierarchia, revive it, and once Diviner of the Herald is tributed off, it's able to summon law from the deck, which is like a hidden effect, as I always say, because it was never used, but it's actually really good. So it summons out law, and then law is the entire combo pretty much. So you want to disrupt Diviner and actually cut them access from law. So yeah, like, other than that, it's just a little awkward to use targeting negation because they have Sauravis. So Sauravis always used to work as a hand trap, if you remember it from older formats, but it's part of the actual like deck. It can be summoned in that deck as well, but obviously it gets played as a hand trap as well. So it's negating an effect that would target. So yes, you wanna make sure that you keep that in mind, but sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. You just kind of have to negate it. And it's very similar with Kirin in Fire Kings. Like, you have to hope they don't have it, or, you know, yeah, like, pray for the best, I guess. When it comes to draw, very similarly to Fire Kings, use it as soon as possible. Like, just just do it. Just do it. If they go pre-prep, I don't know, draw. If they go anything, just if they use any effect, make sure you draw, because they do search a ton. And it's always like this with ritual decks. So draw is going to have extreme impact against that deck. And another card that's going to be insanely busted is actually Shifter. Like we talked about in the How to Counter Fire Kings video, like Shifter is going to be so important in the next format. And, Voiceless Voice is no exception. You want your stuff in the graveyard. Saphira ritual summons by banishing itself from the graveyard. You want to have your resources there. Law keeps coming back from the graveyard. And if you cut them access, there's not much they can do. So if you can play Shifter, I would definitely run it. The next one is going to be DD Crow, which is actually not bad. I'm not certain how down I am for citing DD Crow. There's a ton of good cards for the next format, but it seems like it has a ton of ways of being used against many different decks. And again, Voiceless Voice is going to be one of those decks. Like, you can just get rid of Law, so you cut them access. Again, pretty much their entire deck is functioning better because Law is on the field, if it's on the field. So with DD Crow, you just want to banish it, make sure it's not there. What you can also do, which is a really neat play, if they tribute Diviner for cost for anything, which we have to mention that they play Enemy Controller. Diviner obviously gets the effect by being tributed, so Enemy Controller might be one of the cards this deck decides to run because they actually get value off of using it. And if it's tributed for cost and you DD Crow it, it's not going to be able to trigger in the next chain because it's not in the location that it was before, which is like the new rules revision when it comes to DD Crow and all of that from now it's a couple years back, actually, at this point, I think. So that's really cool. And you can also banish Saphira, so it's not being able to be banished from the graveyard and ritual summon. So the next one is going to be Ghost Bow. This one, I think, has to be run in your side deck because obviously you can use it against Labyrinth, but it's going to be quite impactful against Voiceless Voice as well, actually. So you can bow Law Revive effect, but that one's a little awkward because they will probably chain block it with their Skull Guardian ritual monster. You can also bow Saphira because it actually adds from the graveyard, as well as Pre-Prep, which also adds from the graveyard, as well as Nadir Servant, which also adds from the graveyard. So you want to make sure that, you just check the card text. If it could add from either grave or a hand, you can definitely Ghost Bell it. So there's a ton of application there, actually. The next one is going to be Nibiru. I figured I would mention it because it's usually going to be useful only in situations where they wanna, where they commit, a little too much, I guess, where they play a little more risky, because in the most basic combos, you're not going to play into Nibiru if you're playing Voiceless Voice. But if you just try to do a little more, if you make SP or something on top of it, Nibiru is going to be live, but other than that, I don't think it's the best card against that deck. And also when we talked about Ghost Bow, you can also Ghost Bow the Dynamondo Revive effect, which is actually really nice because they rely on reviving with Dynamondo and having an additional interruption or resource. So yes, let's move on to Super Polymerization. This one is going to be really nice. It's always going to be live almost. They're going to try to play around it, probably, but Super Poly is really, really good against that deck. And yes, the next one I wanted to talk about is actually Cosmic Cyclone. This one's not terrible, but it's not insane. I figured I would mention it. The Cosmic Cyclone, as well as Evenly Meshed, for example, they're always going to just trade with a hard negate. And with Cosmic, you would probably go for Barrier or the Trap, so you can actually deal with their stuff again and it's able to be targeted. But it's just usually going to trade, so it might not be the ideal, trade-off. So you can decide for yourself. But the next one I wanted to talk about is Thrust. It's not bad if it actually works with your engine, because they're usually going to do quite a lot during your turn. They might Dynamondo Revive and also Law Revive, and if they, if you bait their Skull Guardian negate, they can also get out the Dragon Sage, the Sauravis, which is then able to use its effect and summon out, cheat out a ritual monster. So if Thrust works with your engine, then it's not bad, actually. So yes, the next one I wanted to talk about, which is a going first card, is obviously D-Barrier. So when it comes to ritual decks or any decks that focus on mainly one type of summoning. Just use the barrier if you can. It's obviously really nice in Labyrinth or as like a thrust target if you want, or in any random trap deck. But yeah, you know, the barrier is extremely nice. Even if you don't have thrust, if you just want to side it for this particular matchup, sure. You know, if you expect a lot of Voiceless Voice, the barrier is going to be nice. Now, to round this video off, I wanted to mention a couple things that you should be mindful of when you're playing against this deck. So, enemy controller was one of them. We talked about this already. The next one is going to be that if they cheat out rituals via just special summoning them with the effect of Dragon Sage or something like that, they're not properly summoned, so they cannot be revived. And that's really, really important to remember so you don't get cheated. Like the second effect of the trap card, for example, like it just special summons, and both of those effects make it so you cannot revive with Dynamondo. So just please don't get cheated. And that's pretty much going to be it, you know. With this deck, you want to stop it in their tracks, minimize their board as best as you can, because otherwise you would waste a ton of resources. Make sure you have non-targeting removal if you can, and yeah, other than that, draw and shifter are going to be your best friends in this matchup. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. And if there's any other interactions that I maybe haven't thought of, or cards that you should side against this matchup, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!